Welcome back to Football on the 40. I'm your host, Bowen, and this week I am joined by Andy. Our other host, Kevin, is taking a sick day today, and we hope that he recovers quickly and is able to join us for next week's show. So you'll just have the two of us today, and this show is also produced by Hamilton. Well, folks, the Horns did not have a game this weekend, but you could say we won the bye week. It was a pretty thrilling bye week where seven of the top 25 lost. A lot of our peers in the SEC, well, most notably Texas A&M lost, which was very, very welcome to us. And this weekend, we face a very, very motivated Florida Gators team that will be hungry and ready to avenge their loss this past weekend against the Georgia Bulldogs. And they'll be looking to do what Georgia was able to do to us just a few weeks ago. So we'll be getting into all that and more this episode. But before we get into it, Andy, how was your bye week? Did you take advantage of not having any games, or were you still glued to the screen? Yeah, tell me about your weekend this past weekend.
I gotta say, Kevin's definitely taking advantage of the limited PTO that our company provides him. He's kind of testing the boundaries, seeing how many days he can take off. Kev, we got an eye on you. Are you actually sick? Who really knows? Uh, but yeah, no, it was a great weekend. Watched a ton of football. Mary Page had some work obligations this weekend, so I was on Beasley duty. But again, like the other bye week that Texas had, involved a lot of screen time for him. Involved a lot of screen time this weekend for football. But overall, it was a great weekend. I met up with some friends at one point. I was relieved for a couple hours by my mother-in-law to go hang out with some friends, and so that was fun. I had a good time watching games there, and yeah, overall, just it was a good Saturday. I feel like the other bye week had a little more dramatic upsets, if that makes sense, but
hmm
there are about the same amount of ranked teams that lost that bye week and this bye week, which is great for Texas that we didn't like we were not a part of that.
Yeah.
And we were just able to watch it from the couch. But yeah, Bo, how was your weekend? Just your thoughts on the weekend overall.
Yeah, had a good weekend too. Agreed. It wasn't as chaotic as the last bye week, but still definitely some welcome results. Yeah, had a good weekend. Probably one of the highlights this weekend was one of our neighbors. We saw them randomly out on a walk on Sunday morning, and they asked us if we were doing anything that afternoon because they had two extra tickets to the Texas Monthly Top 50 Barbecue Fest that takes
Oh,
place in Lockhart every year. And so we were like, yes, please. So we kind of, asked M's mom to come over and watch the kiddo and our dog for the afternoon when we got to escape and go eat some delicious barbecue. So that was a very unplanned and an awesome, awesome treat. So shout
yeah.
out Mike and Chelsea if y'all are watching this. Kudos to y'all. Y'all win neighbors of the year. Maybe just what a gift. I mean, it was awesome. To like majority of the top 50 barbecue joints came. So it was tons of delicious, delicious food.
Man. Did you like what was your favorite like meal? I guess not a meal, but like just meat
Yeah,
that you had
yeah.
there.
Okay, so there was like this I just kind of describe it as like a stew, but it was like this it had like queso and like cream corn, or not cream corn, but like Mexican street corn and some pork. It was in like a stew form. It was delicious. It was from this place called Burnt Bean Barbecue in Seguin. We saw it's not like, I mean, not next to San Antonio, but it was
It's on the way from Houston to San
yeah,
Antonio.
it's on the way. So it's on our list to go check out sometime. It's a little far from Austin, but definitely want to check that out. But yeah, I mean, tons of
Yeah.
great places. Like Goldie's was there, Truth was there. That was really good. So I know you've talked a lot about Truth.
Yeah, Truth is awesome. Love
Yeah,
Truth.
that was delicious too. So yeah, had a great weekend. Ate a lot of great red meat. And yeah, had a blast. So that was a ton of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that that sounds like an amazing time. So
Yeah, and we hope I know Kevin had a pretty good weekend too, but I'm hoping he's able to recover. So, well, why don't we get into Florida now, Andy? Um looking ahead, we don't have a game to recap this week. Tell us about Florida. Give us some five fast facts about Florida.
Yeah, let's go to the fast facts about the University of Florida. From when I look at the University of Florida, just without a ton of knowledge before doing some research, um, more so earlier this year, I didn't realize how good of a University of Florida is. So props to them. They're definitely one of the top public school or public universities in the country. So definitely a really good education if you do go there. But yeah, let's start with the facts. Number one, a lot of people know this. It's not really new, but Gatorade was started at the University of Florida by a team of scientists there. But the interesting fact about Gatorade being invented there, the lead researcher, Dr. Cade, graduated from the University of Texas. So what starts here truly changes the world.
Nice.
So yeah, nice little connection there with Florida and Texas. Number two, they became known as the Gators due to this guy selling pennants with a gator on them, which is just like kind of funny. Like there's different origin stories for every team's mascot and like how they get their team name. But like it's literally because this guy was like trying to make a buck. And, he like decided the outcome for the University of Florida. And I mean, it makes sense with how many Gators are in Florida overall. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
But what's the closest encounter you've had with a Gator?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Never like, well, last November we went down to Port Aransas and they had this like dock area where you could go sightseeing with birds. And there was a
Mm,
gator. I mean, it was definitely a safe distance away, but that's the last gator that I recall seeing. It was maybe like 100 yards out or 50 yards out or something. But that was that was
yeah,
that
it's
was
not too
pretty
bad.
close. What about you?
Uh, there's one time the closest one was probably in Alabama. I was playing golf and again, not super far away, but I was about maybe like 100 feet, 50 feet,
Mm,
50 to 100 feet away. And the guy that I was playing with kind of pointed it out first, but I think I would have seen the gator too eventually. But
mm.
my ball was kind of in the direction of the gator, so
That's
I definitely hit
terrifying.
the
Every time I see
ball.
those videos of those golfers, like, I don't know, I feel like I'll just take a penalty or I'll just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I didn't feel I would not have gone. I'm not the type of person that would have gone too close to the gator. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was definitely safe enough. But I also at the same time wasn't wasting my time around my golf shot there.
Hmm.
But okay, let's go back to the facts. Number three, Florida is the only university to have both the men's basketball and men's football championships at the same time in 2006. Now, Texas almost did that in 2005. Texas won the national championship in football. They also won the national championship in baseball, and they made the Elite Eight in basketball. And I don't know, Longhorn fans, if y'all remember this, but we played LSU and um, big baby Davis, Glenn Davis, and that was a close game that went to overtime. If we would have won that game, we would have had a pretty good shot of winning the Natty that year. I think we had a really good team. We had a lot of talent, and that's when we had LaMarcus Aldridge, PJ Tucker.
That was a good
Yeah,
team.
yeah, real good team. So Texas almost had that title, but Florida is the only school to ever have it. Number four, this was really interesting to me. I had no idea this was a thing. So a little bit more background on this. Um, so in Florida in the 1800s, there are just kind of a collection of different smaller schools, and it wasn't very organized by the state. And in the early 1900s, in 1906, the Florida legislative they wanted to kind of consolidate the universities together and have different universities for different types of people. So that's kind of interesting. Um, and probably not, definitely not the best policy nowadays. But yeah, Florida started, the University of Florida originally started as a seminary, but eventually the University of Florida was known as the campus for white men, and then Florida State was the college for white women, and then Florida A&M was the college for African Americans. And so this was the case all the way up until 1947.
Mm.
And they kind of went away from that. Florida A&M remained a historically black college, but to me, it was just kind of interesting, just one kind of seeing where things used to be. And thankfully, things have changed nowadays. But yeah, it was just interesting to see how Florida separated by gender, sex, and by race. So, um, yeah, a lot has changed within the last 100 years. And then lastly, we're going to go over famous alumni. Everyone knows about Tim Tebow, probably the most famous athlete to play at the University of Florida. You also got Marco Rubio, Ryan Lochte. A ton of swimmers went to Florida, and Ryan Lochte is definitely one of them. Aaron Andrews went there. Abby Wambach, the soccer player legend, went there. Joe Scarborough, MSNBC guy. Chris Collinsworth, he went there. Emmett Smith, Steve Spurrier. A lot of football history, a lot of athletic history just overall. Really good athletics program throughout the years. And yeah, any alumni that kind of caught your attention that you didn't know that went there, Bo?
I don't think Collinsworth really talks about Florida all too much, or
Yeah,
at least that I've noticed. A lot of
yeah,
those other
definitely not.
ones, like Tebow, obviously. Um, yeah, I don't think I've ever heard Collinsworth mention going to Florida.
Yeah. Um, yeah, he doesn't bring he talks about like his NFL career a little bit at
Hmm.
times, during NBC broadcasts, but you don't really hear a ton about his college career.
Yeah.
But well, okay, let's dive into their football history a little bit more. So Bo, take us into that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the Florida Gators, the football team, it started in 1906 and they have a 760, 447, and 40 record. So a little over 600. They have three national championships, 1996, 2006, and 2008. They've been in the SEC since 1932, but they went a long time before winning their first SEC title, which wasn't until 1991. But they've also won eight titles in a 20-year span. So pretty dominant performance, since their first one. Um, Against Texas, they are 0-2-1 all time. And the last time, I mean, we haven't played. It's kind of like what we talked about with Vandy last week or 2 weeks ago. We haven't played in a while. The last time we played was in 1940. So it has been a while since these two teams have played, but yeah, we're hoping to keep them winless against Texas this weekend. Andy, anything else to add on their football history?
Yeah, unfortunately, we weren't able to play against them in 2008. That was the year that OU got to go to the national championship over Texas, even though Texas beat OU that season. Um, but another thing that like kind of caught my attention and something that we talked about earlier this year, I'm pretty sure on the pod, but I think we're talking in relation to A&M, like how much money would someone have to donate to A&M to get the name changed from Kyle Field to something else. And Florida Stadium, is commonly referred as the Swamp, but the official name of the stadium is Ben Hill Griffin Stadium,
Hmm.
and he donated roughly 20 million in the 80s to Florida to get the stadium named after him. And so today that's about 30 million in today's dollars. So it's just interesting. He kind of got a steal if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like his name's gonna be on that stadium for I don't know for a long time, and like essentially like obviously paid a ton of money, but like not as much as like what probably the going rate is today. So
Yeah. A couple things on that. Yeah, one is yeah, if they didn't sign like any like tenure on that, like if he gets it in perpetuity, that is kind of crazy. But also, Andy, I don't, well, we don't have to do a fact check here live on the pod, but I don't think 20 million in the 80s is the equivalent of 30 million today. I think it's a lot more in today's
You would
dollars.
think so? Okay.
Yeah,
I
but
literally
we'll
plugged
have
it
to look
into
that
a
up.
calculator. So
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
so
Well,
I could be totally wrong. I mean,
yeah.
that's 50% more than like 40 years ago.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But who
So I mean,
knows?
like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it could definitely be more. Say it's 50 million. Like, still a steal, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
No, I
if you have
agree.
that
I
type of
agree.
money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's a great fact for sure. Yeah, and the swamp kind of colloquially taking over the name is pretty interesting too, but he gets it
yeah,
forever, which is a pretty sweet deal. So yeah, going into the game this weekend, thanks for that look back, Andy. We'll kind of talk about the conditions for this weekend. Which Andy, I know that you and MP will be going to this game. I don't think Kevin or his wife Laura are going, and Emily and I are also. We have other events to attend to, so we won't be joining y'all at the game either. But should be a fun one. So it's at 11 a.m. This Saturday at DKR. I don't think that we'll ever change the name of that one. But mostly sunny, I think. It was raining today, but I think by the weekend it'll clear up. It's a high of 71, so it's going to be really nice. 20% chance of rain and 7-mile-an-hour winds. As far as the Gators on the season, so they're 4-4. They lost to Miami. They beat Samford, lost to A&M, beat Mississippi State, and UCF and had a pretty close loss against Tennessee too, and then came back and beat Kentucky, and then this past weekend did lose to Georgia. So yeah, they've kind of gone through the gauntlet. They've really had a really tough schedule. Georgia and Texas back to back, like that's a really tough environment for sure to be in.
yeah,
Andy, what do you think about their schedule? It's got to be like up there, right?
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of people this offseason was they were looking at the schedule for Florida and saying it has to be the toughest schedule in the country. After the Texas game, they still had to play LSU at home, Ole Miss at home. Thankfully, Florida State is a lot worse
Hmm.
um, than like how they were projected to be going into the season. So they kind of get a break there. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough road for them to make a bowl game. I do think they get 6 wins, and it could be us this weekend. Hopefully, it's not, but I do think they get one win out of these next three. I think they're too talented to not, um, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to be Florida State. But 6 wins on the season is not nearly as bad when you're looking as a whole on their schedule. So definitely a
Yeah.
tough slate, and I guess next year will be a tough slate too, unfortunately for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the team. I know they're led by Coach Napier, but anything else you can tell us about his background and as well as the offense?
Yeah, Billy Napier. He, yeah, he has been around for a little bit. He was at Alabama for a little bit. Kind of went through the Alabama car wash, even though he was like up and coming through Alabama. So it's not the same thing, but um, had a productive stop at Alabama. His first head coaching job was at Louisiana Lafayette. And interesting enough, Sark, his first game at Texas was against Billy Napier. We played them. Mary Page and I went to that game. It was
Oh,
like
wow.
105 in the stadium. Incredibly hot. Was not fun. That's probably the hottest Texas game I've ever been to. That or Alabama is one of those two. But yeah, he did a great job at Louisiana Lafayette. He won a couple of conference championships. Was a coach of the year a couple times there too for I guess the Sun Belt. Um, but yeah, had three straight 10-win seasons, and so he definitely deserved the Florida job. I thought he would have a little bit more success going into this year, but obviously he has not. He's 15-18 overall. at Florida since joining. This year, I don't blame him as much, especially he had a kind of a quarterback controversy that I'll get to in a second. Um, but I do think Florida's future is bright. I don't know if he will be joining them. So we'll see.
Was
We'll
his
see
seat
what
pretty warm?
happens.
I remember like
Yeah,
earlier on in the season, like there were some tweets after I can't remember who maybe it was after like Mississippi State or something. I felt like or not after Mississippi State. Maybe after week one in Miami or something, but I remember seeing some tweets about some of the players like the locker room environment like wasn't great. So yeah, is his seat still warm given how they've done this season or um yeah, what's the pulse on this so far right now?
I think it's pretty hot, to be honest. I don't know what his contract buyout is. I assume it's probably a decent amount. I bet at least a couple years left on that original deal.
Hmm.
He just hasn't proven himself. I am a believer in Lagway. I think he has a lot of future at Florida, potentially elsewhere too if he decides to transfer. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on. Um, but yeah, I just the results aren't there. Supposedly has not gone along with the athletic department as a whole. Now I
Hmm.
obviously don't know that. I'm not in the athletic department. I'm not him. But kind of through the um, just from what people have said, it seems like they haven't had the best of relationships. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, never root for someone to get fired, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to end well for him there. But we'll see. Maybe he turns around the rest of the season. They go on a run and he's able to keep his job. But yeah, kind of diving into their offense a little bit more. I was real nervous for this matchup going into going into this game before the Georgia game. And last week I predicted that Florida would beat Georgia with one of my bets. Now Georgia ended up winning that game, but Florida, I thought they put up a great fight. I think if Lagway would have played the whole game, I really think they could have pulled it off. But unfortunately, they did not. Aiden Warner, he came into the game. It's a tough spot to really get your real experience playing what could be the best team in the country. He did not have a very good start. I think he was like 36% completion percentage. Did not complete a lot of passes, but yeah, he transferred from Yale, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see who the quarterback is this weekend. I think it's going to be him, and
Hmm.
hopefully he gets a good set of reps this week for Florida's sake. But if not, I think he's going to have a lot of difficulty against this Texas defense, especially on the road. Texas will definitely be ready to play, but yeah, and then DJ Lagway, there is technically a chance that he could play. Napier kind of talked about it a little bit, um, but if he plays, I think he's going to be extremely hobbled. He really did hurt his hamstring. Supposedly, it's not as bad as it appears. On Saturday, he had to be carted off, but yeah, it's just hamstrings
Yeah,
are not
just
something that just go away really easily. So
I
I
agree.
would just I'd be surprised if he played, and if he played, he's gonna be severely compromised. But um,
It feels like some gamesmanship, you know. I feel like
yeah,
later in the week they'll probably downgrade him, but I
yeah,
would I don't think he would play.
yeah, I don't think so either. And yeah, he is from Willis, Texas, which is just north of Conroe. So he's from the if you want to include the greater Houston metro, I guess technically, but very, very far outskirt of the Houston metro. Very talented. He was a five-star quarterback. Um, there's some whispers that he might be transferring after this season. I think if he stays in Florida, that's the best fit for him, and I hope he does because I think Florida needs to have a good quarterback like him. But and then lastly, kind of talked about this earlier. There was a quarterback controversy at the beginning of the year between Lagway and Graham Mertz, who was a quarterback at Wisconsin at one point, transferred to Florida. Mertz is kind of your more prototypical pro style quarterback. Lagway is your dual threat type of quarterback. I think Florida made the right call to go to Lagway eventually, but yeah, Mertz was definitely capable, but he's out for the season. He had a knee injury in the Tennessee game, and he won't be making an appearance in this game. But yeah, enough about the offense. Bo, what kind of stuck out to you about their defense?
Yeah, so I haven't watched much Florida this past or this season, but I did watch a good chunk of the game against Georgia this past weekend, and their defense looked pretty good, especially in the first half. To your point, like when they could, have time of possession a little bit on the offense, and yeah, defense was definitely competing and had at least one or two picks in the first half, but I couldn't tell if that was just partially because Beck is just terrible. Like I was texting the guys this weekend, I was like, I cannot believe we lost to this guy, which is just frustrating. But anyway, that's besides the point. For the Florida defense, they have 9 interceptions on the season compared to Texas's 12. They have 3 fumble recoveries, and we have 5. And they have 19 total sacks, and we have 20. So around the same. Our defense definitely will grade out better, but still a respectable resume from the Florida defense. In terms of yards per game, though, we are first in the nation at 241, and Florida is giving up almost 400 at 381 yards per game. So that brings them down to like 81st. But still, I think it should be an interesting matchup this weekend, and I think you'll find that once we get into betting corner, I think well. A little bit of a preview. Vegas does not expect this game to be close, but I think the total will kind of paint a different picture in terms of what to expect from Florida. So yeah, should be a good one. I'm hoping that it'll be um, uneventful, but never goes the way we really think. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I think one last thing about Florida as a team, they have a ton of athletes. They are not a team that's, middle of the pack athletic wise in the SEC. They're near the top. They just haven't had the results. So it's going to be a real good test for Texas. I think they're going to be able to, you know, hopefully they Texas has worked on their issues, especially with like the offensive line, Quinn these past couple weeks. And if Texas can perform well against Florida, against guys that are kind of similar size, similar athletic ability, I think that
Hmm.
bodes well for Texas going forward
Yeah.
for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and we saw some tweets today that said Makuba was practicing again, which I was really encouraged by, as well as Isaiah Bond, which I don't know. Like I didn't really think our wide receiver room needs it, but he's just so dynamic. You have to account for him, and so I think he opens up a lot of stuff in the run, helping us get the run game going even too. So it'll be good
Yeah,
to have those two guys back.
for sure, for sure. Well, guys, we're not gonna have trivia this week because it's just Bowen. So, unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. But we'll pick it back up next week. Bo, I do want to ask you though. One of the trivia questions that I had was, do you know how many votes George Bush beat Al Gore in the state of Florida in the 2000 election?
Oh man, I've been reading a bunch of tweets and like articles about this. I don't remember what it was. It was like something absurdly low. Was it like 800 or something like that?
You're pretty close. It's 537
Yeah. Yeah. I
before
was
they stopped
reading,
the recount. So,
yeah. I mean, obviously we won't get into the politics and everything in too depth. But yeah, I was reading some stuff about like the Dominion, like the law like the lawsuits and stuff, and I was like, well, we were just kids back then, so we have no idea. But it was, yeah, interesting situation in Florida
yeah, for
at the turn
sure.
of the
It's probably a
century.
good thing we were kids then and not really caring about that stuff at that time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Imagine that close of a turnout like tomorrow. That would be
oh
in
gosh,
today's day and age. That would be
that would not be good for
that would be
either. I mean, for
interesting
either party. So,
for the country.
they're-
Yeah,
yeah, for the country as a whole. So, yeah.
yeah. But no, that would have been Florida trivia would have been fun, but we'll move on. Andy, thanks for prepping the questions. Um, that takes us into betting corner. So last week I took off. I was on tilt, and I just needed to take a break. I needed to pump the brakes. Andy and Kevin did not. Um, they did not fare that well, but it wasn't as bad as it, maybe could have been. Um, Definitely the A&M loss helped a lot, but Andy was down almost 3 units for the week at minus 2.8, and Kevin was followed closely behind at minus 1.8, and I was at zero. So not in the red, but not also in the positive either. For the year, I'm still way down, minus 32 units. Kev is still in first place with 5.2 units up, and Andy is a little negative with minus 6.5 units, but we have tons of time to make up for it. So we'll see what this weekend brings. Going into the matchup with Florida, I alluded to this a little bit. Vegas does not expect this game to be close. We are 21.5 point favorites, so Vegas expect us to win by 3 touchdowns, a little over more than 3 touchdowns, which is pretty significant. The total for the game is 47.5. So nothing too spectacular, but when you kind of take the spread and the over under with the implied point totals, it's um yeah, I don't know if you're going to play that spread at all, but Florida is a plus 1100 on the money line. So if you like Florida, which Andy, if you go against your gut, maybe you do, 11-1 on the bet. That's pretty significant. But I will not be doing that. This week I will be employing the the Andy strategy though of going against my gut. So we'll see what that brings me. Andy, I'll hand it off to you. What do you like on this Texas game? What do you see an angle here for you to try to make some money here?
Well, I gotta say, was last week the first week you technically won the week
I
this
think
whole
I took
season?
the I think I oh maybe I can't remember. Because I was gonna say I took the last bye week off as well, but I don't maybe you guys both finished in the positive. So
Ah,
maybe
gotcha.
technicality. So we'll take it though.
Love it. Um, okay, awesome. Yeah, let me pull up my bets. I did take by the time this podcast gets released, y'all will know the result of the first Texas basketball game. They're playing right now, are about to start playing against Ohio State in Las Vegas. Based on kind of the scrimmages that Texas has had so far, um, right before the season started. Everyone's looking pretty good for Texas, so I'm excited for the basketball team. I think we have a lot of potential. We're going to be very guard oriented, which is kind of a twist on how Texas has been the last like 10, 12 years. Um, so I'm excited about that. Trey Johnson, I think he's going to be the best freshman at Texas since Kevin Durant. So I think he has a lot of potential. I'm expecting him to be a top 10 pick after this season. So
Oh wow.
he's going to score a lot of buckets. We'll see how he is defensively, but he is a scorer. So excited for his future, especially at Texas. He will be a one and done type of guy, but I put 2 units on Texas to cover that game against Ohio State. They were only favored by 1.5. So essentially, if Texas beats Ohio State, then I win that bet. Um, for this specific game with Florida, you know, I think Florida is going to have a tough time moving the ball down the field because I think Warner is going to be the quarterback. Um, Florida's defense is even though they're giving up a good amount of yards, I think they still are a pretty good defense. They got a lot of athletes, as I mentioned before. We haven't been putting up a ton of points the last few weeks, but I gotta say, I gotta go against my gut, like always. Give me the over on the Texas Florida game. But Bo, what do you got for this game, for the Texas game?
Nice. Um, the only bet that I'm taking when I was looking through the options, uh, I saw the first half or excuse me, first quarter totals, and I'm so tempted by them. Like I saw the Florida one, which was also over half a point, and I loved it, and I was like, okay, no. I got to go against my gut. I can't do that. But I didn't want to do the Florida angle, but I saw the Texas one right underneath it, and the over was 7.5 points, so just over a touchdown. I guess a touchdown and a field goal would get us that. So I thought that was like, okay, I feel like we're gonna get 10 points in the first quarter. Got to go against my gut though. So I'm taking the under. I'm taking under 7.5 points in the first quarter. So hopefully a touchdown, hope maybe a touchdown or a field goal, and that's what we limited to in the first quarter. So That's good enough to win my bet, but that would it's almost like it's not really an emotional hedge because that would not bode well for the outcome of the game for us unless we hold them scoreless, which would be nice. But yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm taking on the Texas game.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad you're going against your gut. I'm glad to hear it. Honestly, if you look at my bets throughout this season, I am negative as a whole throughout the year, but I did not start the go against your guts strategy, I think, until like week 2 or 3. Um,
Yeah.
and if you look at my bets like since that time, I've made a couple bets during that time that wasn't against my gut, and they've all gone against me.
Yeah, you've
So
deviated
really,
from the
I'm
path.
actually in the positive this year going against my
Yeah.
gut. So
Yeah. I think the numbers would support that as well. So that's
yeah.
yeah, hey, it's quite the strategy and it's working. So can't knock it. What else are you liking? Either in college football or other sports?
Yeah, so gonna stick with college football. Um, I like Georgia to bounce back. I like how South Carolina is playing right now. Um, and I like the over for the Alabama LSU game. I think they're going to put up a ton of points. So obviously, those are all not going to happen. Give me Ole Miss money line, Vandy money line, and the under for Bama LSU. I don't know how LSU is going to stop Milrow from running, but we'll see. 2 units on all those games.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's always fun listening to your explanations, the thinking, the thesis, and then it's like, nope, none of that's happening.
Yeah, no, I just can't go with my gut. So you'll
Nice.
soon know. You'll know. You know the gift and the excitement of going against your initial thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I'm still learning the ways. I was like looking at some things and I'm like, okay, do I do it like this? Do I do it like that? So I'm still learning the go against your gut strategy. But I like a couple of mine that I'll detail out here. One is I think Miami just looks super fraudulent. I've said that, we've said that. They just keep getting away with it. Um, I don't think there's any way they cover 11 points against Georgia Tech. So I'm taking them to cover 11 points against Georgia
Hey,
Tech.
there you
So
go. There
that's
you
one.
go,
I'm doing two
Phil.
units there. And then the last one I'll talk about is my Houston Texans host the Detroit Lions, who look like just juggernauts. And Texans, we've had our flashes, but we just can't get it together. The O-line just hasn't looked good. This past Thursday, we lost to the Jets. I mean, granted, we were a little light, but still, I think we just need to figure some things out. So I'm taking us to win. I'm taking us to win on the money line against the Detroit Lions.
Nice.
So I need to figure out the thinking though, going against your gut, but going against your gut when it's also like an emotional hedge, maybe those cancel out. Maybe the balance, maybe the forces just kind of cancel out. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but I'm throwing that into the ring, and we'll see where that takes me this week.
What's the spread for that game?
The spread was I'm taking the money line, but the spread, let me look
Right,
it up.
right.
Um, so we're hosting, so I feel like it was like 3.5, 4 maybe. Yeah, -3.5, -3.5.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's
I mean,
fair.
hopefully we get Nico Collins back, and we've signed some like offensive linemen today, but it hasn't been like a big splashes or anything. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. But cool.
Awesome.
Well, Andy, I'll get those bets in. Give me a quick score prediction for this Texas game.
Yeah, so we got to get the over. So give me 34-17.
Nice.
So yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna go 35-7. I'll say
awesome.
35-7.
Awesome.
Um, hopefully, hopefully either of those I will take. A nice victory against the Gators would be great. All right. We have no mailbags this week, and so that'll do it. That'll do it for us this week. Thanks again, listeners, for tuning in to another episode. Andy and MP, we're looking forward to hopefully seeing y'all this weekend. And fans, if y'all are coming in for the game, safe travels. If y'all are listening to this on the way up or down, we hope that y'all have a good, smooth rest of your ride and have a good 11 a.m. kickoff in Austin, Texas this weekend. So that'll do it for us. We'll see you on the next Football on the 40.
Hook 'em.